Hello and welcome to the video tarot forecast for September. My apologies for it being a bit late. The Mercury retrograde and storm have definitely been playing havoc with technology in this household and also with my life in general. So I am aiming for this reading then to be valid for the next 4 weeks, and so the next reading will then be within the first week in October. So I have shuffled the cards with an intention, and just to recap the three positions of each card, or the positions of each card, the first card that we draw is the foundational card. So I will be drawing that to give us an understanding about what it is that is feeding into the current situation, something key that's happened in your life that is grounding you into the present moment, though sometimes you may not feel grounded by it at all. But what it is, it's the surface on which you're standing. It's the environment in which you're operating as you come into the present moment. So that will be the card on the left. The card in the center is the current cosmic weather. And this weather may be around you and inside you personally. It may also be affecting those around you. It may also, as you can see, affect those in the world around you. So it's not purely limited to you, though I would say to try and find its origins within you first, and then from there extrapolate out into the world. You will tend to find with my readings, in fact with any kind of divinatory art, or where we are looking inside, whether it's through a divinatory art or through some kind of psychological process, that actually the boundary between what is personal and what is collective is porous to the point that it can become non-existent. So notice what is going on inside you, and then notice where it is that connects you with something larger than yourself. And then the final card is going to be, as always, the Tool card. And this is the card that gives you a bit more of an ability to use the circumstances to your advantage, or to mitigate the circumstances if they aren't working in your favor. Something where you have some agency within your life, and the reading offers this to you as a way of visualizing something that you can then recognize in yourself or in your immediate environment or in the world that you can use, so that you can make the most of what it is that's going on in the middle card, which is the present moment, the cosmic weather, as I said. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the first card over. This is the foundational card. This is something that you are bringing in, that you are standing on, whether that surface is moving or stable, we shall see. And that is the Magus. And I'm back to my Röhrig deck this month. I miss it when I don't get to work with it, so it has come back. So the Magus, the two things that I think of first when I think of the Magus are, in no particular order, the idea of that agency that I was talking about, that ability to create, the ability to take what it is that you have around you and inside you and use it in order to shape your environment and to shape your life inside and out. That's the first thing. The second thing that I think of with the Magus is an idea of starting again somewhere. So as the number one card in the major arcana, it comes after the Fool, which is the zero card, which is that 0 point field, the field of potential, where nothing yet has happened, nothing yet has sprung into being. And then what springs into being out of this this oneness, which is essentially nothingness, is the Magus. And that is then the idea of something being created that is binary now. You have the 0 and the 1. You are now starting to see what is going to take shape out of potential. So in terms of this, as it pertains to the reading and a foundation, maybe it is that you have found a sense of your own agency in your life and in your world. It may be that you are starting to experiment with certain things in terms of how it is that you create your environment, how it is that, and this could apply to anything. It could be monetary, it could be relationships, it could be your home, it could be your work, but there is definitely a creative aspect to it, a taking charge, a directed aspect to it. So that's part of it. But there's also then, there may be some of you out there going, well, that doesn't feel true at all for me. I'm feeling powerless. I'm feeling like there's nothing much going on. I definitely know from a lot of the one-to-one readings that I'm doing with people that there is this idea or this feeling, a very intense feeling, and it's been for a while, that there is this weight, this waiting, this things not being clear, things not coming into focus, things not revealing themselves. Well, in a way, the Magus also speaks to this, because what it's saying is that if you are feeling that idea of, I don't really know what's happening, then the message is to go back to the fact that you are actually the creator of your experience. And actually there is something going on inside you and with your own process that is in the process of coming into shape. So that's not for me to say, by the way. I just want to make this very clear. You are the creator of your own experience, and therefore in some way that holds you at fault for not having anything happen. No, that's not what I mean at all. What I mean is that there must be a wisdom, or there is an innate wisdom behind the nothing happening as well. Because as the Magus, you can choose to act or you can choose not to act. There's that idea, that Taoist notion of the that mastery that comes from knowing when to act, but also knowing when to be still. And the Magus is nothing if not an adept in the field of creation. And sometimes creation involves standing in that moment and waiting to see what it is that presents itself. So the Magus embodies really that the ability, the power to do something, which is also then implies the power not to do something. What they both come down to is that you are solely in charge of your own experience, and so there is this idea of having to, excuse me, to take responsibility for your experience. If your experience isn't fair, then it's not saying, well, that's your fault. Again, that's not what I'm meaning. But what it is saying is that you are the person who is empowered in this situation, whether you feel it or not, to change it. So sometimes the Magus gets to work with amazing tools. You know, when you think of the magician in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, he's got the cup, the pentacle, the sword, and the wand there. And those are the way that they are there. There is that idea of perfection in the aces. But sometimes in our own reality, what we get to work with is a little more raw, is a little more rough around the edges, sometimes very crude. So that that beautiful blade may be, you know, like a steel kitchen knife. You know, it may be that we are instead of given all of the potential for riches, we are given a few cents to work with. So, but what the Magus does, whether it is in riches or whether it is in something that is much more raw or base materials, it's that idea of alchemy. You work with what you've got. So you work it, and that's something that is now foundational to your experience. There is the invitation, if you have not yet done so, to look at what it is that's around you and inside you and understand that you are the one who is able to use that in order to shape something. And that brings you into the present moment. So we get to have a little bit more insight into the environment in which you're working. So this is your lab. This is the kitchen in which you are cooking. And it is the Knight of Cups. Now that's interesting in and of itself, because it doesn't speak to a situation, but it speaks to an aspect of personality. And I'm going to put these two cards together because you can see here that the Knight of Cups is very much focused on the Magus, intently focused on the Magus, who is then intently focused on us in turn. So the Knight of Cups then is really the environment in which the Magus is operating. And I'm not sure entirely, actually, when I look at these cards, whether that environment is one that is favorable or one that is adversarial. And that may be, it may be both, actually. It depends on the motive of the Knight of Cups. So let's explore the Knight of Cups as an aspect of personality. Start it off with you. You can extrapolate it to those around you, to the environment as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be a particular person, but it could be a collective kind of a feeling. But the Knight of Cups is the king in other decks. So it is the mature masculine principle of emotions and of water. So it is fire of water because it's the Knight. The Knight is the fire element of water. So it is a very directed, very active aspect of emotions. And it is, and it can create steam. It can create some kind of forward momentum. I'm going to read the writing on the card so that you can, because this particular card is rich with a wealth of writing here. The ability to give, devotion to a loved person, to reach higher emotional levels, spiritual relations, and a family of one's choice. With the Magus, that's a very powerful card about shaping one's own relationship environment, I think. It's the idea of choosing what it is that you want to have in your life in terms of relationships, but also choosing your experience of emotions in the people and situations around you. It says there, the family of one's choice. That's interesting in and of itself because there is the family we're born into, and then, as people say, there's also the family that we choose. They may be the same family, and for many of us, they may not be the same family. It may be that our family teaches us what love is. It may be that our family teaches us to go and find our own version of love that is not what we grew up with. So the Knight of Cups here and the Magus together feels like an ability to go out now and start really actively working with yourself, noticing what it is that works for you when it comes to matters of the heart, what doesn't work for you, working out what it is that you want, which is sometimes the hardest thing that we can do. I always roll my eyes, whether inwardly or outwardly, at the idea that you can just, what is it that you want? Go out and get what you want. Well, actually, first of all, it's finding out what you want first. And the Knight of Cups is about what it is that you want and what you're aiming for and what it is that you choose to surround yourself in matters of the heart. So as the patriarch of the family, he is symbolically that organizing principle around which everything else constellates. So the Knight of Cups then is really about taking charge of the emotional environment. And I'm going to go back to the adversarial quality because really you've got two very powerful masculine cards here. And it's about whether they work together or whether they work at odds with each other, whether there are motives that don't exactly line up. So the Magus may be aiming for one thing, the Knight of Cups may have an entirely different thing in mind. The way that the cards are here, though, they're not facing away from each other. So I think that there is the invitation here to take charge in one's emotional life and then to be able to expect the kind of action that supports that idea. So there may be something inside you that I want more than this. I want more than I've had. I need to find something that works for me. I need to find something that not only works for me, but works for those around me who I love. We need to find a supportive environment, something that is spiritual as well. And when I say spiritual, I mean attending to one's soul and not necessarily only one's heart or one's immediate material interests or one's immediate personal interests, but something that feeds spirit, something that feeds a sense of deeper meaning as to why it is that you're here. And that may not make sense to anyone else. It may be that other people don't understand what it is that you're aiming for, because the matters of soul and the matters of spirit, which are the soul is embodied spirit, are unique to each one of us. And sometimes what it is that we're striving for, this idea of creating a sense of relatedness that we're striving for, may not be what another person wants, and so people are self-selecting in that respect. But I wouldn't, what I would say is that if it is that you have this vision in your mind and your heart, and as you can see here, these cards are nothing if not describing a sense of vision, there is an intensity to both of these that really means that they are you know, that they mean business. That if you have this vision, then, and it feels right to you, and it feels like a sense of your own inner truth, and you may not be able to explain why, you don't need to waste your time justifying it to those who don't understand. Neither do you need to waste time defending it to those who don't understand. This is really about you pursuing it in a relentless way, in a way. And by relentless, I mean that you are not taking excuses for second best, and you're not listening to the admonitions of people who really don't see what you're seeing, because this is about sight. And as you can see here, the Knight of Cups, he's got white light coming out of his eyes. This sight has nothing to do with everyday things. I'm looking out the window behind the screen, you know, and I can see the garden. I'm not talking about those eyes. I'm talking about the inner eyes, and particularly with the Knight of Cups, the eyes that are directed by the heart. And the heart is deeply connected to that sense of the unconscious in tarot. And so it's also about paying attention to what it is that rises up through the emotions, that is telling you something about the situations that you're choosing, the ones that you're wanting. Are they healthy? Are they not? Don't look beneath the emotion for what it is that's going on. And so here you have this very directed energy, and something about really having to now commit to something, to commit to making a choice. You know, am I for this or am I not? It's nothing about being against something. It's because that's not really what this is about. It's rather, what am I for? Everything else then just becomes irrelevant. So the environment then is about choosing. It's like what strikes me when I think about it is one of those times if you're in a group setting, and sometimes if you're doing some group work and they say get into pairs, and they say, oh, just look around the room and see if you can find somebody who you feel that you resonate with, or you know that, and then you look up and you look at somebody and you kind of go you, and that's, you just know that that's the person that you're going to be working with. And the Knight of Cups really has a kind of, I mean, obviously it's a much deeper and more meaningful way of choosing, but it's a similar kind of principle. It's heart-based. It's also intuitively based, because he's fire of water. So fire is intuition as well, and creative energy. So yes, choice about who it is that you are going to be associated with in an interrelational level, and what it is that you're going to be associated with. So it's not only just about people, but it's also about your passions, what it is that makes your heart beat faster, and in a way that truly is warmth and about the sense of feeling at home. So it's what turns you on in the deepest sense. So that's the cosmic weather, really. It's the idea of having this could feel quite a sense of urgency or drive around making choices about what it is that you are for, and how you choose that here with your heart. And the final card, which is the tool card that you get to work with. So this is something that you can use in this encounter that you're having with your heart and its drive towards finding a sense of belonging and meaning, and a way of creating from that is perfect. The Fool. Okay. I love the fact that when you put the cards together, you have the zero that I was talking about. So you have the Fool there, from which the Magus has sprung. And I now notice actually how similar they are. I've never really noticed that before, but they really are. It's almost as if the Magus has found more directed form from the potential of everything in the Fool. So your Fool card as the tool. Oh, wrong one. Sorry. This is what happens when my screen is reversed. The Fool card as the tool is, I think, there are several meanings to it. The first one is that it's about the fact that you could have, that the tool may not yet be defined. So in other words, you may have to strike out and find the tool and be experimental about that. So that might be one of them. The tool might actually be that same kind of unpredictability that is the correspondent of the Fool, which is Uranus. So the tool might be something that you're not thinking about. It might be something that is, as I said, unpredictable or shocking or subversive. It might be something that you haven't immediately assumed would be useful. It might come out at you from left field and present itself, and you might look at it and go, oh yeah, that's it, even though, and I'm not sure why, I don't know why it is that I'm using this, but that's it. That might be another way of how the tool, or what the tool means. But I think another one is, and this resonates with me more, the unpredictable nature of it resonates sort of second. So this one's the one that I'm going to talk to you about now is the one that resonates most for me. But be prepared for the unpredictable nature in which something presents itself, because that also feels relevant. But the idea of beginner's mind, I don't know. That's the idea of the Fool, I think, in this. So that's your tool. Not that you don't know what the tool is, but the tool is, I don't know. I'm not sure about this. I wonder about this. So instead of immediately closing off an avenue in your experience, immediately judging something, immediately saying, labeling something, this is that, or that is that. It's always been that way, and therefore that's the way it is. Or this is my belief. This is my belief, and therefore it is so, because I will not change my beliefs. The Fool is adopting a stance of anything is possible, a stance of not knowing. So in those moments where, and let's contextualize this with this reading. For example, if this is about choosing where it is that you are directing and focusing your energies to bring together a sense of community and belongingness, whether it's inside you, interpersonally, or in a group, or how you feel about your world, then there is something here about reserving judgment. Reserving judgment about what it is that is the right thing to do, the only thing to do, the thing that you always do, and rather just adopting a sense of anything can happen, or curiosity, or a sense of being prepared to step out into the unknown and risk it all. And I don't mean to say that recklessly. The Fool, it's a fine line to tread, because to other archetypes, the Fool could be reckless, but nothing ever gets done if there isn't a sense of being able to step out with an open heart and a possibility that and that isn't limited by, oh, you mustn't do that, or you shouldn't do that. That's foolish. But there is a difference between recklessness for its own sake, or shadow recklessness, which is sabotage, and then the recklessness that is labeled as such because it's different and it's new and it might take you somewhere and it might change things. And that's Uranus again. It might change things. It might be that actually what is stirred up is the idea of something new, because you bring the Fool into the mix, and therefore there is an unpredictable edge to your experience, because you have decided to say yes to what you don't know rather than to stay with what you do know. I think that's it. I don't think I need to say any more. I think that absolutely that's it. It's about saying yes to what you don't know, if that feels right, because remember, you've got the Knight of Cups. If that feels right, it's to say yes to what you don't know. And there may be nervousness, there may be fear. That's different from feeling something wrong. So it's about discernment here, and you're the Magus, so you have the ability, or you have the Magus as the foundation. But it's to say yes to what you don't know, because there is something there that is calling you. And there is a Rumi phrase that I have that I will put under the recording if I can find it, but I'm going to garble it completely when I say this, but it's something about following the gentle pull of your heart. It will not lead you astray. That is me paraphrasing, but that's really what this is about. And with that, I wish you a happy adventure. And for all of those who are listening to this, whether today or in a few days' time, who've been going through earthquakes or hurricanes, my heart is with you, my thoughts are with you, and I hope that you all have come through safely. And I would love to hear from you when you get your connectivity back. And yes, and there's water in this reading as well, in a level of unpredictability. So that too is reflected as well on a collective level. So questions, comments, anything like that, please post them underneath the reading. I am more than happy to answer them. I love hearing from you. And in the meantime, I will be back at the beginning of October. Take very good care, and goodbye.